Okay, we come back. I forgot to tell you something on this foreclosures proceedings. Foreclosures proceeding. Actually, the bank cannot foreclose without they actually, when they charge, when they register their charge at the SSM, it's only meant for them to become the secured creditor. But I forgot to mention that they should also remember just now when individual they register at the land office. Okay, the reason why they register at the land office is actually to obtain the power to foreclose the proceedings. So for this particular company, okay, when they charge their property to the bank, not only the bank will register the charge at the SSM to be a secured creditor, but they also need to register at the land office. Land office. In the event of default of payment by ZZ Sdn Berhad, okay, then only they can apply for foreclosures proceedings. Yeah, so I forgot to mention that part just now, but it's more on technical. Okay, when it comes to this, but this is part of the law, which I would not touch. But this is the effects of non-payment of the loan. Okay, now this is on the fixed charge. Now, on the floating charge, the other types of charge, let me just, we go back to our slides. Okay, what is floating charge? One that is not attached to any asset, any fixed asset until it is crystallized. If float above specific assets such as inventory, okay, it floats above specific assets such as inventory. For example, stock in trade, book debts, raw material, goods to be sold. And then for floating charge, company is free to dispose the assets in the normal course of business and to replace them by acquiring the same category of assets in the future. And in this case, for floating charge, consent of the holder is not necessary. Let me just finish going through the notes here. Yeah? Okay. Now, for floating charge, on default, the charge crystallize and ceases to float. Okay. It's like floating. Okay, floating. It ceases to float and drop down to attach itself to the specified categories of assets. Yeah. And then a fixed charge and becomes in effect a fixed charge. So from floating charge, the moment it crystallizes, it becomes a fixed charge, okay, over the assets of the company held at the time of crystallization or acquired afterward. Okay, and then a floating charge enable a company to dispose of the trading stock in the ordinary course of business while still giving the debenture holders a good security by floating over any trading stock which may be acquired. Okay, now but I'm not so sure whether you can see what does it really mean. So let me just show it to you. How does a floating charge works? Okay, now we go back to our ZZ company just now. Okay, so ZZ so ZZ Sdn Berhad. Okay, so ZZ Sdn Berhad. Okay, they borrowed loan, they borrowed some money from the bank. Okay, they borrowed some money from the bank, right? And they secured for the payment, to guarantee their payment, they actually charge, okay, their book debts. Okay, what is book debts? This is a book stating all the debts of the debtors, meaning if you are the suppliers, there are a lot of retailers purchase from you on credits, and the amount, a total amount of credits goes up to, let's say, 100 over 1,000, 200 over 1,000. So basically this particular book, they has value because of the debts owed by the debtors to your company. So let's say, assuming now book debts might not be a good example. Can I change the example here? Okay, stocks. Okay, stocks. Okay, what sort of stocks do we want to sell? Let's say furniture. Okay. Wood furniture. Okay. Wood furniture. Okay. Now, let's say this at that particular time, the stock worth 150,000. Okay. Now, Zack Sdn Bhd, they borrowed. Okay, they borrowed from the bank about 100,000. Okay. And their guarantee, using the stocks, okay, and the stocks are furniture, which actually wood furniture, value at that particular time of borrowing is 150,000. Now, when we talk about stocks, stocks comes and go. Remember, so you sell, and then when you produce, so the stocks keeps on changing. Let's say on the 1st of May, stocks is 150,000, value worth 150,000. Let's say there's about 100 furniture, or 1,000, make it 1,000 furniture. And by 5th of May, the furniture reduced to 950,000. Okay. Now, when Zack Sdn Bhd borrowed 100,000 from the bank, and it was charged, okay, charge to the bank over this whole thing is what we call, okay, floating charge. Why? Because on the 1st of May, the total stocks is about 1,000 unit of wood furniture. And on the 5th of May, it has reduced to 950. And who knows? On the 10th of May, it has gone up again to 1,200 units of furniture. So basically, it keeps on changing. Yeah. Okay. So that's why we call it floating. And because it is charged to the bank, we call it floating charge. And of course, the bank would, okay, register at the SSM to become a secured creditor. Okay. We call it floating. Yeah, it floats. Yeah. Now, when an event occurred, okay, when an event occurred, is no longer floating. Okay, it's no longer floating, and it will become crystallized, right? How do we do crystallize? Something like that. This is the crystals. It's crystal. So previously it was floating. Now it's dropped. No longer floating. It becomes crystallized. This is what we call crystallization of floating charge. Okay. How do you crystallize? When certain event in the document happens, happen. Okay, the event will be stated in the document. When any of the event in the document happens, this floating charge will crystallize, and they are no longer floating charge. They have become a fixed charge, right? When they have become a fixed charge, they can no longer be in and out. Okay, they can no longer be in and out of stocks. Okay, the company can no longer deal with their stocks. Okay, it stops. everything stops. Okay, so let's say on the date of crystallization, let's say 11 of May, the stock has reduced to 850. So that is the amount that will be recovered by the bank. Okay, that is floating charge. Now, can we look back at our slides? Yeah. Okay. What are the events that leads to floating charge? Leads to crystallization of floating charge. Now, floating charge will become a fixed charge. There shouldn't be any D there. When any of the following events occurs which crystallizes it. So, if the company goes into liquidation, all floating charge automatically crystallize. Decent liquidation, all. Now, appointment of receiver by the court or by creditor. Okay. Or any steps taken by the creditor to enforce or take possession of security. For example, in this case, Dresdner Bank, AG and Ho Moon Taek Don. Justice Tian held that the charge crystallizes when the banks took steps to take possession of the shares. Okay. And upon cessation of company's business. And then sometimes it is possible to provide in the instrument, right? Just now, provide in the instrument. Where was it just now? Okay. This is what we call instrument. Okay. The document which says that which talks about this loan. Okay. This is loan document. Okay. So it is possible to provide in the instrument that it will crystallize at the option of the creditor. And a floating charge may crystallize automatically upon the happening of a specified event. So this is what we are going to deal with when we are doing the floating charge. Okay. Now back to our slides. Yeah. Okay. Now, so basically, one that is not attached to any assets until it's crystallized. Once it's crystallized, it becomes fixed asset. You can no longer deal with the company, with that particular stocks, at any time. Okay. While it's still floating, you can buy and sell. You can add in to your stocks. You can also sell your stocks. Yeah. Okay. Upon default, crystallize. Okay, this is floating now. Okay. What is the distinction between fixed charge and floating charge? Lord McNaughton in Illingworth and Hooworth says that a specific charge or fixed charge is one that fastened on ascertained and definite property. For example, I've shown you just now, immovable property or property capable of being ascertained and defined. While a floating charge, on the other hand, is ambulatory and shifting in its nature. It keeps on changing, yeah? Hovering over and, so to speak, floating with property which is intended to effect until some events occur, which is, okay, whatever event, or some acts is done which causes it to settle and fasten on the subject of the charge within its reach gap. So, until certain event occurs and it's settled here means it's crystallized, okay? And what are the characteristics of floating charge? Justice Romer says that if it is a charge on a class of asset or a company present or future, and if that class is one which in the ordinary course of business or the company will be changing from time to time. Remember just now we see the raw material, the stocks. Even if it's book debt from my earlier example just now, the debts can change. People can come to the company and pay their debt. So the amount or total amount of debts can actually ranges from whatever that particular states to reduce or even to make it large. Yeah. And then if you find that by the charge it is contemplated that until some future step is taken or taken by or behalf of those interested in the in the charge, the company may carry on its business in the ordinary way as far as it's concerned. Meaning to say, if the charge actually from whatever product or whatever goods in that company, and the company are still free to do business from that particular product or inventory or stocks or raw material book debts, so it is a floating charge. And then in Dresdner Bank and Ho Moon Taek, The court held that a charge having only the last two characters, the number 2 and number 3 here, still amounted to a floating charge. So these are the characteristics of a floating charge. We have seen crystallization. Now, I would like to explain to you about this case, Silverstone and Marketing, Sriram Berhad. Now, perhaps you might not be able to understand because of certain words, because some of this you did not actually learn. Okay, being a non-law students, you don't let me just read out this company borrowing first. The facts. P, executing creditor, had conducted execution over this movable property at the deeds. P here is the plaintiff, D here is the defendant, and subsequently the court bailiff had seized all the movable property. What is executing creditor? You might be a bit confused here, but let me just explain. Okay, can we just explain what is executing creditor?